7. Voice of Reason. Ada pulled me off the fence. Libby cleaned and dressed my wound, but Tom was the one who looked after me once I was patched up. Seemed like mayhem ruled the house for an eternity, but in reality, the sun still hadn't cleared the barn roof before the bleeding was staunched. I was bathed and fed, and we humans were dressed for the day. While I had dangled from the fence bleeding and screaming, Kesa had barked and run in circles. When Ada stormed out of the sliding glass door, Libby close on his heels, both of them hollering, "Hang on, Jack, we're coming!" Kesa barked and ran in circles. And while Ada pulled me off the fence, turns out my leg wasn't impaled, just badly cut, looking for all the world like he was the one who was both terrified and suffering, Kesa barked and ran in circles. Kesa barked and ran after Ada and Libby as they rushed me into the house, where Libby tended my wound and tried to comfort me, though she too looked in need of a comforter. Finally, Ada had had enough mayhem, and as Libby soothed and caressed me, Ada grabbed Kesa by the collar, ran her into the backyard, and snapped the dog lead to her neck. From my spot in Libby's arms, I could still hear Kesa barking, and I presumed that my friend was still running in circles, tearing up the backyard grass. As I snuggled against Libby, Tom meandered over, brushed his head against Libby's feet, looked at me and said, "I'll let Kesa know that you're all right, Jack. Poor thing's going to have a coronary worrying about you." I nodded and said, "Thanks, Tom, and tell her she was right, that I should have listened to her and ignored Fabulosa." Kesa was looking after me, and all I wanted to do was prove to that darn cat that I was big and brave. Well, don't judge all of us cats on Fabulosa's actions. Never a dull moment when she's around, more's the pity. "I'll go tell Kesa," Tom declared as he headed to the backyard. "Ada!" Libby called out to her husband from our spot on the couch. "You just missed the funniest thing. That old Tom came over to my feet, and I was going to shoo him away before he jumped up here and started bothering Jack, but instead, the two of them started meowing and babbling back and forth, just like they were having a conversation." Ada stepped down from the kitchen to the family room where Libby and Jack sat and grunted, "Huh, did you get it on video? Maybe we can send it to America's Funniest Videos." "No, not a ha-ha funny, strange funny. I swear Tom meowed for a couple seconds, and Jack babbled for a bit, and then Tom meowed some more, and before you can say Jack Robinson, old Tom is heading into the backyard. It really seemed like they were talking to one another. Well, it's a shame you didn't get it on video. I think it'd be right nice to be on that America's Funniest Video show. You said Tom went outside? I sure hope he keeps out of trouble. I've already had more excitement than I'd prefer, and the day's hardly begun. Maybe you should bring Tom in. You know I don't like it when he's out there without one of us, him not having any claws and all." Walking over to the sliding glass door and looking out into the backyard, Ada said, "Oh, he'll be fine. It's broad daylight. I doubt there's any coons or whatnot who'll bother him in our backyard right now." "Oh, Lordy, maybe not. He's going over to Kesa. I better get out there and bring him in. That dog is mighty worked up." Ada reached for the door handle as Tom stopped by Kesa. From the doorway he watched as Tom sat and meowed a bit at the still frenetically barking and circling dog. Kesa halted in her tracks, stopped barking, turned her head to the side, and responded to the news with a few calm, subdued woofs before walking over to a shady spot and lying down in the grass. Tom meandered over to Kesa, rubbed her head against the now tranquil dog, and then began to make his way back up the stairs that led to the house. Ada looked toward his wife and Jack, back toward Tom, and then shook his head. "Nah, can't be," he muttered under his breath. "Did you say something, Ada?" Libby asked from the couch. No. Looks like Tom's coming back in on his own. And it sounds like Kesa's, finally calming down, thank goodness. I know we don't have any neighbors close by, but I was starting to think they'd be complaining about that dog barking way down in Mason City." "Yeah," Ada responded, scratching his chin. "She's quiet now. Must have barked herself out." "Well, thank goodness for small favors and big ones. Jack, you had us worried sick. I don't know how you managed to get out of your crib without us hearing, but I'm sure glad you weren't seriously hurt. You're like a miniature Houdini. Ada, I think we need to lower that mattress to the lowest setting. What do you think?" "I think the cat's out of the bag and you want to close the barn door after the cows run away. Nope, I think it's time to retire that crib and get Jack a big boy bed. What you got to say to that, Johnny? Libby twisted her nose, gave one decisive nod, and relented. Yeah, Pa, I reckon you're right. No sense trying to keep him in a crib if he's just going to find a way to crawl out of it. Guess we need to get our little man a real bed. Tom pushed through the pet door, brushed up against Otta's legs, meowed once loudly, and headed to the quiet of the spare bedroom. Jack babbled in response, telling his wise friend, Thanks, Tom. I'll be more careful in the future. Oh, and guess what? It sounds like I'm getting a big boy bed.